Um, about about 9 months ago, a very influential donor who was giving me very candid, thoughtful, honest advice I was grateful for told me, it's clear that naturalists and birders won't speak up for nature. It's been tested. They don't want to go do that. They just want to find birds and for people to leave them alone. He wasn't entirely wrong, as your laughter confirms. I love to wake up early, get coffee, go find a cerulean warbler, sit in a quiet place, and enjoy all the plants on the way back. I bet you have had that feeling of complete stillness in which it feels like the world is just stopping for you. Why change it to one of argument and fight and confrontation? He wasn't entirely wrong. He was wrong when it comes to Ontarian nature. Yes, conservation in Ontario can be broken. Many organizations just document extinctions. Many times we fundraise from grief, and too often we celebrate wins that quietly erode the systems that we're trying to build. I know he was wrong because this was said on a room not unlike this one. Naturalists of the province should begin to urge the value of nature preservation apart from commercial exploitation. Not last year in response to Bill 5, not 5 years when we were defending the Greenbelt, not in March when the conservation authorities were being eroded. The date of that quote is June 1932. Heads up to the people from Peterborough that provided this quote to me in the regional council meeting. It was written nearly 100 years ago, published in the very first report issued by what was then the Federation of Ontario Naturalists, now known as Ontario Nature. And you might feel deep frustration right now that we are fighting the same battles nearly 100 years later. I felt it too. A profound frustration, wrestling with the same short-term exploitation of the earth, urging the same preservation of life for an entire century. I stayed there too long because the frustration is only half the story. Over the past 95 years, we have succeeded. We are many more sitting. What nature remains in Ontario today exists because people like you chose to speak up and act. We have not walked away. We have not taken our eyes away from our shared goal, the long-term protection of wild species and spaces in Ontario. We remain. Today, as we forge into our Centennial, we are unveiling our first ever public-facing strategy together. It recognizes a flame has burned for 95 years. This plan is how it shines for 100 years more. We're not ready. This plan prepares us. This is not a metaphor. It's not here for storytelling purposes. Ontario had its worst wildfire season on record. Yet, we continue to cut the green tape. Let's call it what it is, the green tape that guarantees our very survival and quality of life. Our infrastructure is constantly rebuilt because nature can't protect it. Wetlands that would absorb all this water are not there to absorb it anymore. We drain them for cement. We drain them for more housing. We drain them for more storage. We drain them for more, and more. Please note that the next image is triggering, so take a breath. Climate change can be slowed, fought, even partially reversed. The floods and the fires, we can rebuild from those. What we cannot rebuild is this. A warming planet can stabilize. A species lost is forever. No policy reverses it. No funding recovers it. No court order will bring it back. And you know, indigenous peoples have understood something that Western conservation is still learning, and hopefully we will learn at some point. The unit of protection was never the species. It is not the species. It is the relationship. Protect the common, the shared water, the connected land, the web that holds everything together, and the species follow. What are we supposed to do with all that? Recognizing that nature in our province is exploited for short-term gain for the benefit of the few, Ontario Nature will bring together partners, policy, and data to build a cohesive wall of protection. Uplift grassroots agency, ensuring local voices are heard at the highest levels of power. Take proven science-based and indigenous knowledge and turn it into lasting conservation on the ground. Safeguard the environment by creating strong, unyielding policies and defensible land practices. But Andres, let's go back to that cerulean warbler. Why do you keep thinking about politics and speaking up? I just want to see some ceruleans. I will let Dr. Ravi Da Costa answer that. Glad you asked. He gave me the simplest definition of politics I have ever heard. It's how decisions are made. What a boring answer. Yet so brutal. Here I was thinking that politics was about getting the permit to go ban the bird. Turns out it is also who decides whether that bird has a habitat to come back to. Who and for whom? I was forever changed by one line. An agency void is always filled. Always. If we who love nature do not show up when decisions are made about who has the right to care for nature, use it, enjoy it, and profit from it, short-term pressures will always win. And too often they do. They are winning right now. Choices are being made for us every single day, just as they were in 1932. So my cerulean must wait. And we've heard this from you directly. Take a moment, read those quotes. When we ask you about the most pressing environmental challenges we heard, one of you said, I'm going to read, many believe their wants and convenience to be more important than protecting our environment and don't worry about our waterways, wetlands, park, or wildlife. Another said, which is very true, a provincial government that is anti-environmental protection and in fact quite the opposite, reversing years of work in protection. Finally, this was said, the ability to increase awareness for environmental issues through policy advocacy and our ability to protect nature. We have to stay in the rooms where decisions about nature are made. That is not a political statement. It is the gap between being right and being effective. And the cost of that gap is measured in species. Closing that gap starts with us. At 95 years, we know very well who we are. We also know what we have not yet become. We have moved forward together, but mostly with people who kind of already like us. People who already agree with us. You know, we want to be left alone, go see a cerulean, so don't bother me. Industry, politicians, Ontarians who have never picked up a pair of binoculars and will never do it, they are not obstacles to conservation. They are the majority of the decision makers. We have to move forward with them. I want to make friends with them. We have said we partner with First Nations. What we're learning is the difference between inviting Indigenous peoples into our work and following their lead in theirs. That distinction is not semantic, it's the entire difference. And not all the protections we won have held. Policies reversed, progress eroded, Victories that felt permanent until they weren't. Protection that endures means building systems, laws, and relationships that outlast any single government, any single election, any single organization, including Ontarian Nature. These are not values we have mastered. They are behaviors we are committing to in public today for the first time. For 95 years, we protected what was possible. We have succeeded, remember that. Ontarian Nature has been part of every single major conservation win in this province. The Greenbelt, the Bruce Stroke Conservancy, who was opened in 1967, June 12th, this day. Yes, the Endangered Species Act, and a legacy of provincial parks, and more. The challenge of our time is to move from monitoring the decline to mastering the recovery. This is rooted in the understanding that decisions about nature prioritize short-term pressures that benefit the few. Community care, knowledge, and action remain sidelined. The disappearance of a species and spaces we love is not inevitable. It's a choice. Our solution is clear and proven. Remove barriers so can people connect with nature. Turn that connection into collective action to care for the land, water, and species we all depend on. That's simple. How we will do this took 9 months to build. I want to bring the person who facilitated that process to the stage. Justin Chan, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
Not lava.
Hi, everyone. My name is Justin, and I'm representing the community company. We are a team of community-based researchers as well as entrepreneurs, and what we do is social innovation for the charitable sector. We're also a certified B Corporation, one of about 200 in Ontario. So let's look at the next 5 years. As we were designing this strategic plan process, it was through and through that this needed to be rooted in community. And so what I share in front of you are some of the pictures throughout the process, design processes, meetings we've had, surveys we've conducted. And so it's co-creation. And I want you to know that this strategic plan, we evolved it at least 10 times through and through to make sure that it had our community voices and our community perspectives in it. I would like to first give a few thanks to some of the people in this room who helped steer this process. The staff of Ontario Nature for iterating constantly with us. Carrie Ann Charles for her wisdom and insights bringing in the First Nations. The steering committee and the board for challenging us to think bigger. And then of course, Sarah and Andreas for your support and dedication to this work and also the health of Ontario. So it was a pleasure getting to know so many of you through this process. This plan included the voices of First Nations communities, staff, the Nature Network, the Youth Council, members, supporters, funders, and leaders in the conservation community, including many of you in this room. And the reason this is successful and the reason we're so proud of it is because we know that you all took the time to share your knowledge and perspective in our data collection process. It was deeply iterative and collaborative. So how did it start? We first had 2 sessions with Ontario Nature, with their staff, with their board, with the leadership team, and we talked about the next 100 years. What could it be? That then led to surveying, that then led to in-depth interviews and conversations where we validated some of our thoughts, but we also uncovered entirely new challenges and opportunities for Ontario Nature. That's what informed our goals and our strategies. But we didn't stop there. We then continued engaging the community, First Nations, and external partners to validate what we've put together, to make sure that it is correct, to make sure that it is ambitious, and to make sure that it's also realistic for Ontario Nature to achieve. And so when I say ambitious, this is specifically what I mean. We had 629 survey responses. That's a lot. That's from members, supporters, local leaders all across Ontario. We had 60 hours of direct community engagement. That means workshops, sessions, collaborative dialogues. We also had 37 in-depth interviews with community leaders, and that represented another 40 hours of direct engagement and with sector experts across Ontario. And so this is just some of the over 8,000 data points we were able to analyze and weave into our strategic plan. First and foremost, we learned that Ontario Nature has a strong reputation and legacy. Grassroots initiatives come and go, policies and election cycles come and go, but 100 years, nearly 100 years as a trusted partner is stability, and it's our strongest asset. We also heard that the Nature Network is our unique niche. No other network exists in Ontario with our ability to advocate and mobilize like the way that we do. There's lots of ways that we can improve it and grow it over the next 100 years, and all that data we collected in the survey has been presented to Ontario Nature as part of our strategy. We also learned that nature reserves are very important to membership, and specifically the acquisition of land as a permanent protection of Ontario. Conservation is also economic health, knowing that it takes care of our communities as well. Youth engagement was also brought throughout, but it's not just about workshops anymore, it's about youth and leadership. And so that message has been made across clear in our strategic planning process. And finally, the environmental sector as a whole is facing a hostile political climate, and we need to deeply consider that as we're planning our next 5 years and our next century. We also heard a lot of opportunities, and these will be reflected in the 4 goals that we'll share. We want to deepen partnerships, especially with Indigenous communities, as well as cross-sector. And it's about how can Ontario Nature be better at enabling other groups to succeed. Mobilizing the Nature Network is another major opportunity for us through local advocacy and local action. It's about being the mycelium network and support as we grow our systems. And it's also about moving to proactive policy and advocacy, focusing on our local levels to promote local wins. And finally, it's taking innovative and informed approaches to organizational readiness, thinking about the way that we diversify our funding, as well as the way we invest in technologies. We recognize that staff capacity is paramount throughout all of this, and so we've discussed thoroughly what are the lenses that we review our decisions to make sure that we focus on the right areas. And so maybe to close, we were really inspired and humbled with how much the Ontario Nature community showed up with passion, with honesty, and with their time. And it has allowed me, on behalf of my team, to come on the stage today to confidently and without a doubt share that this plan thoroughly reflects the community's needs and our goals for nature in Ontario. There are a lot of challenges up ahead, but the community has also given us the insights and the blueprints on how Ontario Nature can best prepare for the next century ahead. And so with that, I'll hand the presentation back to Andreas to share and introduce the strategic plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Making choices is the ultimate responsibility of leadership. Being clear about how we make choices builds trust. It also tells us when we got it wrong. This strategy creates a framework to guide our energy, work, and resources and attention. With this framework, we centered the needs and voices of nature, the people and the communities who lived on the land. 5 questions, 5 filters. They tell us where nature needs us most. The trust filter. Are we moving with the urgency of the mission or the panic of a deadline? If trust is eroded, the mission is lost. Our choice is to move with the urgency for the mission, not the panic of the deadline. That means prioritizing relational trust, our partners, our members, the people who walk with us, the staff, even over operational speed. Effectiveness depends on outcomes being durable, not just fast. Durability comes from shared meaning. I'm going to let that one sink in. Real urgency means taking the time to build the relationships that allow conservation to endure. Moving without them isn't being bold. It's a risk to the mission. We chose the speed that builds durability, not the speed that gets us only a tactical win. The ground-up filter. Are we fighting where we're strongest or just where it's loudest? Local mobilization leads to provincial impact. We've seen it. We cannot be everywhere. That is a fact we need to accept. The provincial government doesn't just listen to us in Toronto. They listen to their voters, They listen to their constituencies. They listen to their councillors, their mayors, their constituencies across the province. This is why we concentrate our efforts on local, high-impact conservation projects that can serve as blueprints for province-wide success. By building meaningful partnerships with First Nations and Indigenous peoples, by increasing our influence with all provincial political parties, and by linking our priorities to current issues, the rising cost of living, employment, community health. We give our network the tools, knowledge, and confidence to engage government from the grassroots level. Not because it is easier, it is absolutely not. Because it's where decisions are actually made and where they can hold. The innovation filter. Are we evolving or just repeating a habit? The trust filter asks us to slow down for relationships. This filter asks us to make sure that while we sometimes slow down, we are not standing still. Like a salamander. Our work can be fast. It needs to be innovative. It needs to evolve. When a program runs for 20 years for the sake of it running for 20 years, that is not responsibility to the mission. That is comfort with the familiar. We take proven knowledge as our bedrock, but if a program isn't delivering results, we have the courage to improve it, or stop it, or replace it with something better. We iterate quickly on our methods. We are efficient with our tools. We're nimble with our funding, and we remain patient with our partners and our people. Those two things are not in conflict. The movement filter. Are we the main character of the story or a tool for the movement? Ontarian nature is not here to save the day. The most resilient movements in history did not have a single leader. It has a web of leaders, each node as strong as the center. If an action doesn't build the capacity of our nature network, our youth council, and the communities we work with to lead, we are just building a bigger bottleneck. We are not the climbers. We are the gear, we are the maps, we are the training, sometimes the emotional support body. The community leads the climb. Are we restoring the system or depleting our energy? When we got this filter, I was very nervous. These choices are very hard. They are also unsatisfying for many. They get us angry emails. They get us funding rejections. But a strategy is not about satisfaction. It's about choosing and living with the consequence of what you chose. It's making the decisions right. We chose restoration because a win for nature that exhausts our team or relies on unsustainable shortcuts is a net loss. And a tactical win that erodes the system of safety for nature and people is also a net loss, perhaps the most dangerous one. We design for the long-term health of nature, our staff, our partners, and this province. We design for reconciliation and First Peoples and respect for their connection to the land. We call them regenerative wins. Actions that have the potential to change the underlying system so we don't have to fight the same battle tomorrow. Not faster, not louder, regenerative. If it doesn't feed the health of the movement and our people, we don't do it. 5 filter. Every major decision, every time. From this framework, we develop the outcomes we are committed to deliver between now and 2031. Like the concentric rings of a great tree, our goals compound and build upon a century of trust. Protect and connect for the long term. Protecting means securing land permanently, legally, irreversibly, in different ways. Connection for some might only mean habitat and ecological connectivity, but it also means building the relationships between people, communities, and that land so that protection holds even when the government changes. One without the other doesn't last. Ontario's public lands belong to every person in this province, all of you. Protecting them is not an ask, it is accountability. We are committing to advance, this is a bit scary, the protection of 5% of those public lands and waters, formally, measurably, every year until 2031. In that same period, Ontario Nature will protect, directly secure between 2,500 and 7,500 hectares, twice our current footprint. Secure means permanently ours to steward in the best way Ontario Nature does. At least one of those securements will be completed in formal partnership with a First Nation. We will directly restore 100 hectares of critical habitat and enable another 100 across the province for species at risk. Personal connection to nature is where it starts. Permanent protection is where it needs to finish. Mobilize for nature. Mobilizing means activating what already exists, the network that exists, and it's sitting in this room right next to you. We support 150 nature network groups distributed across every corner of this province, already there, already working. Our commitment is to actively support at least half of them to directly steward local ecosystems, make friends with their local decision makers, and advance municipal protection. That is 75 organized, locally rooted, civically engaged groups working simultaneously across Ontario. Now the part that gives me accelerating hope. Between 150 and 250 young people active every single year. At least 40% of them in leadership roles within the Ontario Nature community. They are governance, advocacy, and community action. They are not the future of the movement. They are already in it. And our partnerships with First Nations. We are committed to 10 active partnerships with First Nations from here to 2031. What makes this different from what we are already doing? Tracking and reporting co-develop entirely on their terms. Their knowledge systems, their decision-making authority. We are not only inviting First Nations into our work, we are also ready for them to invite us into theirs. That is what mobilizing for nature looks like. Ground decisions in trust. Every policy win Ontario Nature has ever achieved rested in Ontarians trusting us and someone in power trusting our voice. Facts informed, trust moves. We are not waiting to be called. We want decision makers to have no choice but to listen. That condition is built on two things, standing and credibility. Standing means being trusted consistently over time, before the crisis, not just during the crisis. Credibility means aligning with expansive realities. I'm going to let that one sink in too. Like bridging together Indigenous knowledge and Western conservation science in ways that neither can achieve alone. For standing and credibility, our nature reserves will become open research hubs, places where that knowledge is documented, tested, and shared, where connections are made. And every municipal plan, every provincial policy, every regulatory framework that incorporates one of our recommendations builds that standing one decision at a time. And we have a new threat of mis and disinformation. People will ask, how do we counter it? We build the capacity in our staff, members, supporters, partners, and youth leaders to identify and recognize and respond to it within their own circles of influence. All of this is how trust becomes infrastructure, civic infrastructure for nature. Everything we have committed today, the land, the network, the trust, requires an organization that is built to last, not for 5 years, for 7 generations. That means one commitment above everything else, a place for everyone on this movement at every stage of their life. The child on their first walk, first trail walk. the student leading their first advocacy campaign, the adult that arrives to a new city and is looking for their people, but also the long-standing supporter that is considered a legacy gift or a land protection that will outlast them. What we call Nature for Life is not a program. It is the commitment that no one who loves nature in Ontario has to ever find their way alone. Now, the number that will kick you out of your chair, I hope so. 5 million people connected to nature in 5 years. I know Joan is a bit nervous right now. And I know what you're thinking. That is impossible. Good. That's the point. Meaningful connection to a family is a walk on an accessible trail, like Cawthron-Mulloch Nature Reserve. To a politician is a report they cannot ignore. To someone who found us on social media is something they did not know yesterday. The hardest part is not doing it. It is measuring it. And learning from what we measure is how we get there. Build for forever means creating a journey that builds through generations intentionally. That is the plan. A single tree is nothing without a forest. Look at the community that stands next to you right now. Look to your left, look to your right, look behind you, look to the front. That community stands behind this plan today. 9,500 members, 130,000 supporters, 155 nature network groups, 40 scientific and conservation experts and staff, 89 youth council members, 1,405 nature guardians, youth program participants, 100 volunteers, 1,000 community scientists, 84 funding partners, and many active relationships with First Nations across the province. This is the forest. Some have proposed that trees communicate through an underground web of fungi and airborne signals, sharing nutrients, warning each other of danger, nurturing their young. That this tree network makes a forest function less like a group of standalone individuals and more like a single integrated organism. Whether or not that is entirely true for trees, it is exactly what we're building. Sharing vital information, warning each other of danger, celebrating each other, caring for our youth. A web for each other. Let us look back one more time to that 1932 report to see what our founders left for us. A few hundred individuals may, in time, accomplish a good deal. A greatly increased membership is requisite. Still true, we need this forest to grow. Some species take 20 years to reach reproductive age. You saw them today. You saw the result of at least 20 years in the parking lot. 2 decades to be able to have new little turtles. Every one of those turtles laying eggs today at least took 2 decades of nature's patience and is a witness to our work and to our resilience. You heard from Tony today. This is a piping plover. For 30 years, it was gone from Ontario, wiped out. Then in 2007, because provincial protections worked, it came back. Wasaga Beach became its sanctuary. Beach Area 1 became the most productive nesting site in the province. 70% of all Ontario-fledged piping plovers that survived to adulthood came from that single stretch of sand. Last year, the protections were repealed. On April 13, 2026, machines roll onto that beach. Mechanical rakes start removing all the habitat that those birds need to camouflage their nest. The entire population of piping plovers in Ontario is 7 breeding pairs. 7. On April 20, Ontario Nature, Environmental Defence and Eco-Justice filed an urgent lawsuit in federal court demanding an emergency protection under the Federal Species at Risk Act. We showed up because someone had to fill the agency void. Because choices were being made, and we were not going to let them be made without us. The moment to craft their recovery is now. It will require a lot from you. It will require a lot from us, but it will give you so much joy at the same time. We need your hands, we need your voice, your presence in the rooms where decisions are made. You know that feeling I described? Coffee, cerulean, nature goes still for you. When I finally get that coffee with that cerulean, it's going to taste so much better having worked on this plan and standing in this room with all of you. We can be and will be the generation of recovery. We must craft nature's recovery. Join us, keep on supporting us. Thank you.